if you are a guitar player who is working on their improvising, there's a very good chance that you, like many of my guitar students, and like me for years before, are falling prey to a problem. Now, what this problem is I call it the stepwise motion trap. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, have no fear. I'm going to describe it. So what stepwise motion is, it's a way of describing when notes move in the perfect order of the scale. So let's say, hypothetically, you're jamming out an A minor, the guitarist's favorite key. And let's say this is kind of the vibe that you got going. I have a loop set up. Stepwise motion would sound like this over it. That helps if I have my volume knob turned up. Where none of the notes I'm playing are bad, but I'm just playing them in the constant order of the scale. And this is something that happens to a lot of guitar students. It happens to tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of my students. And again, I used to do this a lot as well. And there's a simple way to kind of break it. So I'm going to break down a systematic way to get out of this problem. So the first problem is we need to come up with some bigger intervals. And intervals sound scary. They're not very scary. Interval is just a way of describing the distances between notes. And when I get students to kind of work on this, I recommend just like fully pulling the guardrails off and literally just setting the goal of I'm going to play notes with bigger gaps between them than the scale. So a lot of my students get scared to do this because we practice our scales, right? We practice our minor pentatonic. We get good at it. And then when we go to solo, it's all we freaking do is we play it in order like that. So one thing to do is try to slow down and just treat it like you're a kid finger painting. If you're a viewer that has kids, treat it as something that you're going to put up on the fridge. It does not have to be the Mona Lisa, but just put it on and see what some of these notes sound like when you don't play them in successive order. Or successive order. It could be boom, go. I threw in one stepwise note there. Mess around with getting some bigger ones in. It forces you to access a kind of more creative part of your brain than the part of your brain that wants to go, yeah, And so the first step is just trying to find bigger intervals to play. And you don't need to do them all the time. Like that was a pretty extreme example I did. You could also try playing how you normally would. So say we got this going. You know what I mean? We're there, I'm playing a lot of stepwise stuff, but I'm breaking it up with these bigger intervals. Because when we get into these stepwise rules, even people who aren't musicians will be able to tell that it's kind of boring. We've heard the minor pentatonic scale, or whatever scale you're using, a lot at this point. So that's one way of incorporating these intervals. Now, sometimes what can work really well to kind of get into this is using strategies. And there's two strategies that I want to give you. And what we think about with strategies is there are things to think about when playing. And the first strategy to talk about is what I call big drop. And so a big drop is going from a note that's high to a note that's quite a bit lower. And you can just try to drop these in, into your phrases while you go. So say we have this. I'm going to just set my goal is I'm going to play some big drops. So I might... Wasn't the best, but let's try it again. That was nice. There I did a drop and then to a note that was lower. So that's the idea behind a big drop, is you're going from a note that's high to a note that's low. You could also do this even coming from a direct scale run would be another approach. So say we're going, you could have a line that's kind of going up the scale. too much. Having that big drop. Now, the polar opposite or mirror image of this would be something that I call big rise. And what might that be? Exactly the same thing, but in reverse. So we're doing that. Now my goal is to come up to a higher note. So that was actually both there. I played a big drop and a big rise and then a big drop. And so that is a really, really good way of kind of going into this. Now, another great way to just start triggering this part of your brain to kind of wake up. I'm a really big fan of something I call the 2-string rule. And now, the name of the 2-string rule is going to become very obvious. And the reason that I call it the 2-string rule is what we want to do is we want to pick 2 strings with at least 1 string of gap in the middle. And those are the only strings we're allowed to make music with. So let's say I choose the B string and I choose the D string. I have these 2 notes in this position and I have these 2 notes in this position. If you know your scales in multiple places, you can, of course, branch out on those strings. But let's just keep it simple. I'm going to make some music with just these. And the thing that's cool about this is it will kill the part of your brain that just improvises running the scale. Because it makes sense that that part of your brain takes over. It goes, I've prepared for this. I know what I'm doing. But it's not what you actually want it to do. So in this case, you have to be creative with less tools. So you'll improvise in, I guess, a more improvisatory manner. Because you're not going to be playing rehearsed things. You're going to be responding to what you're playing and what you're listening to in, I guess, a more authentic way. So check this out. If I hit it, I have the B string and the D string at my disposal. I played 1 note on the G string there at the end. And my loop is not the best recorded, I'm learning. It has a little gap in the end. But besides the point, that's a great way to do it. So there are a bunch of strategies you can use to start kind of fixing the predictable nature of your improvising. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you can like and subscribe. It truly helps me out more than you could know. If you're looking to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to get in touch with me down in the description. I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. If you're looking for a different way to support me and what I'm up to here on the channel, you can check out my Patreon page down below. All of my patrons get early access to videos as well as cool behind the scenes sneak peeks that I don't share anywhere else, so I'd love to see you over there. Another great way to support me and what I'm up to is to check out my ebooks or my video courses, which are also linked down in the description. It's a great way to get some more in-depth educational content from me than I can go into in a 10 to 15 minute YouTube video. And last but not least, I have new videos coming out every single Monday and every single Thursday, so I hope I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.